John and I are in hangar number 2, and as promised, we're going to talk about the restoration of this Cobra that's behind us, and John's going to kind of walk us through it, okay? This John, is not Grandpa's closet and something we're rewiring for sound and electricity. These are complicated machines.
Well, they're extraordinarily complicated. I've been working on them since 1971, and so I have this real background of taking all this apart and putting it back together again. And it's, you know, it's like everything else in life. You build on a base and you continue to get better and better at it as you get older and older. So my project here is Project 295. 295 was the 50th aircraft built by Bell 50 years ago in 1966. And we're turning it back from the modernized version, which is the F model, back to a G Mod S timeline. We're putting a curved canopy on it, and we're completely redoing the aircraft. And when you redo an aircraft, it's pretty delicate work. We have removed the front cockpit, all the plexiglass, all the material, the nose, the turret, the guns themselves. And we're working our way from the inside out, basically, with the aircraft.
Well, let me just stop and ask you that one quick question. How many hours will you spend restoring this bird versus maybe when you were on active duty and they sent it back to direct maintenance to do it?
Yeah.
What's the difference? I know that may be a hard question, but
that's a real tough question. It's thousands of man hours. Is about as close as I can get to it. I've been working on this one now for 1.5 years.
Wow.
To take it apart, make sure everything's serviceable in it, and start putting it back together and inspecting every element and every piece of the aircraft going back together to make sure it's in a serviceable condition.
Now, do you
have to be flying this.
Yeah, do you have to check all the rivets? I mean, every detail on this thing?
Absolutely.
Wow.
It's and it's, you know, it's like teaching somebody to drive. You take a little bit at a time, and as long as you're focused on one thing, you can really see what's going on. But with this, it's a complicated machinery, complicated in many aspects, both from electronic side as well as the flight control and the actual layout of the aircraft itself. This is a one-of-a-kind aircraft. When it was designed in 1966, the technology then was pencil and paper. And so you're dealing with a piece of equipment that has gone through time and changed a little bit every year and every couple of years. And so to take it back, you got to make sure that all that engineering that was there to start with is in place, you know, for what you're producing.
Well, let me ask you a question about the engine back here. Obviously, this will be a new engine.
Actually the engine's not in the aircraft right now.
Right.
So the aircraft went to the overhaul facility at Nebraska Gas Turbine up in Nebraska, and they recondition it, they check it out, they run it on an engine test cell and make sure that it's operating correctly, and then shoot it back to us to be able to install in the aircraft. And so as we install it, we're having to go back to the original configuration that the aircraft was in, and that's different pieces, new parts, a lot of sheet metal work, a lot of riveting, a lot of replacement of components.
Okay, now on the tail boom back here, although very intricate itself, is there things that you got to replace back here on this thing, you think?
Oh,
I mean, how do you know?
There are criteria. You know, all the technical pubs that we have define what the criteria is. I look at the aircraft like it's a internal engine operating. You're allowed just thousands of inches in damage on pieces, and you have to look at them with different techniques to determine if they're serviceable or not. Some are visual techniques, some are on magnifying glasses, some are dye penetrant, looking for cracks. Some of the components we actually send out to be examined through Magnaflux machines that look at the metal and to ensure the metal doesn't have a crack in it. And so the operation is, depending on the piece of equipment you're looking at, a little different. But you know, when you go to fly, you only have one chance to land correctly, and you want to make sure everything works correctly.
Well, and you know, I will tell you, folks, get a shot of this, okay, because there are two key elements in all of this that I would recall. That I understand, okay? I have in the military drinking a lot of that, but the rest of this, all of those manuals there hurt my head, okay?
Yeah.
And you know, but you've got to collect all these original Army manuals that you've assimilated? I mean,
yes.
Okay.
We actually have everything we need from engineering drawings all the way to the actual tear it apart and put it back together instructions. Just this set that we use that's on paper is about 10,000 pages.
Goodness.
So between here and in the office, you know, it gets to a level of detail where you're looking at, you know, very small, intricate parts.
Well, one final question. When it all gets back together, I want to come back. I want to talk to you because you're obviously going to be the guy that's going to test pilot this thing, right?
As a matter of fact, I am.
That's what I'm talking about. I'll be right there because that is going to be an awesome sight here for this particular bird. So,
well, when we get this flyable, should be another 6 months. We'll get you an invite back here, and we'll put you in the front seat of this, and we'll take you out and really show you what the aircraft can do.
That's why I'm an infantry guy right there. John, it's been an honor and a privilege. I tell you what, thank you so much for what you're doing, not only for the Heritage Foundation, but for the public in general, because again, this is a lost art, a lost business on our youth out there, and so thank you so much for keeping this alive.
Well, thank you all. I'll tell you, there's a lot of time, effort, and devotion that the folks here, you know, I wish I could line up everybody that has something to do with this aircraft and, you know, shake each one of their hands because it's an amazing contribution by so many people.